In this video, I'm going to cover how to retire a millionaire without making six figures. You know, most people think you need a huge salary to retire wealthy, and it's just simply not true. It's not about how much you make, it's about what you do with what you do make. And, as always, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just someone who's serious about financial freedom and living below my means. So if this idea intrigues you guys, stay tuned. When it comes to investing in your future and ultimately reaching that goal of millionaire status by retirement, even on a modest income, the math still works out when you break it down. I think average income is probably around 35K, between 35K and 60K, give or take, probably in America. And that income can absolutely work with discipline. It's a lot easier on a $100,000 salary, but some people, as they make more money, maybe they get that lifestyle inflation. They go out to eat more. They buy a new car. They get a new place to live. Rent increases. All these lifestyle choices. It inflates. Which ultimately, if you didn't do that when you're making 60K, you would have more money per month at the end of the month. So jumping back into it, if you're investing, let's just say, $100 to $300 a month early on, it can turn into seven figures if you let it sit in the market for the next 30 and 40 years and let it compound. And just like mentioning right there, time in the market and compound interest is the real cheat code here for the average Joe to become a millionaire by the age of retirement. On a lower salary, you're right thinking that you won't be able to invest as much per month compared to if you were making $100,000, $150,000 a year. And I completely understand that. I completely agree with you. So with that, starting early and staying consistent is your best friend there. The earlier you start, the less you will have to actually contribute in the long run. So if you were to invest the $100 or the $300, $500, whatever you feel comfortable with investing per month, and you start at age 25, if you break it down, just look up an investment calculator on Google, and there's plenty of options that pop up. Type your numbers in, type your monthly amount that you can comfortably afford to invest, and you can see if you started investing at age 25 and you went till age 60 to retire, and then you compare that number to if you waited until age 35, where you made a little bit more money and you started investing then, and you wanted to still retire at 60, you would see a huge gap between the difference of the two numbers, and compared to if you started at age 25 compared to age 35. So keep that in mind, guys. Like I said, play with the calculator, see where your numbers match, see where your number gets you, and see if that closely aligns with your goal, and adjust accordingly. And as always, guys, don't worry about getting it perfect early on. That's what we have on our side. We have time on our side. We're younger, and you have time to mess up, you have time to learn. So don't worry about getting it perfect starting out, guys. Just get started. Start investing that $25 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever number you comfortably can afford to invest right now. It's better than waiting, trust me. And as always, dollar cost average, dollar cost averaging removes that pressure of timing the market. And, I always preach this, guys, time in the market is always better and will always beat timing the market. So if you can comfortably invest $100 a month, do it, guys. Make it consistent. If the market's booming, or if the market's crashing, or it's on a slight decline, continue to put that $100 in a month. You won't regret it, and your future self will thank you for being consistent and setting your future self up for success when it comes to retirement of, ultimately, hopefully becoming that millionaire. So you have that set number you want to put in per month. You're going to do the dollar cost averaging. You're going to put that number in regardless if the market's up or down. It's earlier to start sooner rather than later. Start at age 25, compared to waiting till you turn 35 and make more money at that time. Now you're probably wondering, like, well, what kind of accounts am I putting my money into? Like I said, guys, always do your research. Don't take my word for exact. But some of the accounts I personally use and that are really, really highly recommended. Use a Roth IRA. Use your company's 401k if they offer a match. That's always nice to benefit from. And the reason I suggest these accounts is they're actually tax advantaged. So while some you won't get taxed, it's kind of pre-taxed income putting in that set amount that you want to do monthly, or at the end, when it's time to retire, you can actually pull all the money out tax-free. So I'm not going to go into detail on those accounts and like what the different tax advantages are between them. But like I said, guys, do your research on them. Those are the two main ones I personally recommend: a Roth IRA and a 401k, especially if the 401k, most likely from your employer, offers a match. At the end of the day, it's free money. It's a free match if you reach that number that they offer. And kind of like this next bullet point kind of just covers that exactly. Match your employer's contributions if offered. It's free money. And then even partial contributions help. So the Roth IRA, you can actually max that out per year. I think currently it's sitting at $7,000 a year you can put into a Roth IRA, and then it's capped for the year. Is it nice if you could max out your Roth IRA every year? Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, right? Max that account out, because that's one of the best accounts to set yourself up to be successful when it comes to retirement. But if you can't max it out, it's completely fine. Get it to the highest amount you can. If it's $4,000, if it's $3,000, it's better than sitting it in your bank account, or going out to the bar every other weekend or every weekend, just kind of blowing that money. Over a year, you'll probably be looking at a couple $1,000s you're blowing money, and that's money you can put in your Roth IRA. So keep that in mind, guys. Partial's better than nothing at all. What personally allows me to invest even more, especially the ultimate goal of maxing my Roth IRA, for example, live below your means, guys. That is a cheat code, especially when it comes to being able to invest that little extra money per month, in my opinion. Frugality is really underrated, guys. You'll always see online, especially social media, your friends going on vacation, or your coworkers going on vacation, or people buying new cars. They just bought a new house. They went on a big trip out of state, spent a bunch of money, did a bunch of cool things. While that is nice, yeah, it's always great. I'm not saying don't enjoy your money, don't experience new things. I'm not saying that at all, but do it responsibly, I guess. And that's why I really want to emphasize, living below your means. Avoid lifestyle creep as your income grow, guys. Maybe at 25, you're making 50,000, and then 30, like by the time you're 35, you may be making 70, 80,000. Great. That's good. Like good for you on, increasing your income over the years. That's the ultimate goal, right? As you get older, you should make a little more money. With that, remember to avoid lifestyle creep. If you get that new income, if your car's working, guys, don't go out and blow out your new money on a new car, or a crazy vacation, $10,000, $20,000 vacation, some crazy shit. Buying a new house or upgrading your apartment if it's really not needed. If you're getting by, where you're currently living, that is the biggest things that impact people who start to make more money. I feel lifestyle creep. They'll just increase all levels of their lifestyle. They'll go out to eat more. They'll go to fancier restaurants. Insert whatever lifestyle creep you want to think of there. Avoid that, and then use that extra money. Put more money into your investment accounts per month. Maybe now you can finally max out your Roth IRA because you're making that much more money. You're able to put more money in per month to reach that goal. Focus on the saving and the investing percentages, and not just raw dollars. This one, take this with a grain of salt. I prefer to, just to kind of focus on the raw dollar amount. I'll pick a number that I want to invest monthly. I'll plug it into an investment calculator and just kind of see where the numbers lie, and then with that I'll adjust I'll adjust my numbers, or I'll play with my goal, and you see okay, well, maybe I want to have a little more money when it's time to retire, or, oh, really, I really don't need that much per year after retirement. Just keep that in mind, guys. Like I said, play with the numbers, but take that one, with a grain of salt. Maybe you like percentages. Maybe you just want to break it down by, okay, I want to invest 5% of my income, or you just want raw dollar amounts, whatever one best suits you, whatever works better for you. And, after all that, you got all the above steps figured out. Now it's just a waiting game, guys. Be patient with it, be consistent. Repeat all those steps mentioned earlier for 20 to 30 years, 20, 30, 40 years, and you're set, guys. Boring investing is effective investing. What I recommend, I invest in index funds. I don't usually do single stocks. While I dabble in them a little bit, just kind of not so much for fun, but, just kind of keep my sanity a little bit, invest in different stocks that I see may be a huge impact in the future, or, maybe they're making a new product that I feel, I can get behind. But ultimately, staying the course through, the ups and downs in boring investments, like I said, index funds, they're boring, they're simple, but they're very effective. And this is what will separate the long-term winners. You don't need fancy stocks, just focus on the index funds and time in the market. So my final thoughts on this video, guys, it's about freedom, not flash. It's not about the fancy new toys, the fancy new companies that are coming out, especially with AI. Like, this new AI is going to be the old AI. Just keep it simple, guys. Don't do anything crazy. Retiring a millionaire isn't really about being rich. It's all about having options. It's all about giving yourself those options, peace of mind, and time freedom. Time freedom and financial freedom go hand in hand. You really don't need to be exceptional. I think I've preached out throughout this whole video. I'm definitely not exceptional. Just be consistent with it, guys. Be consistent. Dollar cost average, you're golden. And I've encountered many people in my life, my day-to-day life, some friends where they just won't do this. They won't do it because they don't realize that, time's ticking, we're only getting older, the years are flying by. They just don't start, whether it's, they wait too long, or they're just not disciplined enough to make themselves save extra money to not go out to eat as much, or to not buy stupid knickknacks, and instead invest that money. And, you can only try to guide someone as much as you can, but at the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself. And if they're not gonna do it, they're just not gonna stay consistent with it. So my little rumble there. So guys, I'm ending it here. As always, I really appreciate you guys, just listening to me ramble. If this video helped you at all, please, feel free to drop me a like. Give me something in the comment section. I always love interacting with you guys, and feel free to give me a subscribe. Feel free to check out my other videos throughout this channel. I have all sorts of videos, guys, ranging from money talks, life advice, stuff that I've experienced in my 26 years, almost 27 years on this earth, and overall freedom, guys, financial freedom, time freedom, insert freedom, whatever you like, guys. But till next time, the lunch table out.